Guys, welcome to the Vlad Catcher Show, the #1 show for founders, execs, and entrepreneurs who are scaling their businesses. This video is presented by Namespace, and we have an incredible interview for you today with its founder and CEO, Hugo Santos, about how he created and scaled the business. Hugo, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Vlad. I'm glad to be here.
Well, tell us, Hugo, what's the origin story? How did Namespace come about?
Before starting Namespace, I was 9 years at Google, and I helped build a lot of Google's infrastructure. We helped search, apps, YouTube, and other parts of the company to go really fast. And then I felt like I want to go and bring this to the industry as well. So we started talking with friends across other companies like Netflix and Snap, and we realized they had a lot of the same challenges, and we set ourselves to solve those to the broader industry as well.
Can you tell us more about the product, Hugo? How does the product work, and what are some specific use cases?
Yeah, Namespace is a developer infrastructure platform. Like every single company that is building software needs to have a factory where they transform code that their software engineers are building and writing into assets that all the users are using. And we build the best-in-class factory, best-in-class infrastructure that gets you that code into production. Namespace focuses a lot on performance. So we want you to build and develop software as quickly as possible. A lot of our customers are hyper-growth companies themselves, and the time to market is just so incredibly important, and that's what we help them with.
And Hugo, what I'd like to know is, so if the businesses did not use Namespace or some alternative, what problems would they face? Because I think frequently, when they can see the problems or the challenges they face, it becomes very clear the value of your product. Can you kind of break this down for us some?
What we see across the industry is that companies, as they grow, their ability to ship software just slows down. Like Google, for example, has hundreds to thousands of engineers just building infrastructure. They're not building products that you're using, they're building the products that the developers inside of Google are using. And that's completely invisible to everyone else, but without them, Google wouldn't be able to ship. But it's not just Google. Meta is the same thing. Netflix, any sort of company heavily depends on infrastructure that often is built uniquely to that company to be able to get to their customers quickly. If you are a small startup, someone in the team is playing that role. If you're a 100 engineer company, you probably already have 10, sometimes 20 engineers that are just focused on infrastructure, just focused on making sure that the rest of the company is moving as quickly as possible. And without Namespace and without these investments, this can make you could be 5 times as slow as your competitor. And in this market or any market, you know that time to market is extremely important, and you'll just lose. You won't be able to bring value to your customers. You won't be able to ship new features. You won't be able to handle incidents. Just a few weeks ago, Amazon had a major outage, and your ability to react to outages like that also means that your infrastructure needs to be as efficient as possible. We actually had customers of ours that reached out to us because they were able to handle Amazon's outage because Namespace was up and running and still being extremely efficient to them.
And who's the ideal ICP? Like, who's usually the person who buys Namespace and kind of pushes it up in the organization?
Yeah, it's a great question. We build infrastructure that is used by developers, and developers love to try things themselves. So usually the starting point is any engineer in the company. And we see where we bring the most value is when your organization has 100, 200, maybe 500 engineers, because they're all collaborating in the same code base, and they end up getting into bottlenecks because of the size of the organization. But you can be a fast-moving startup. Even there's some namesakes in the industry, especially now in the AI space, where you have small companies moving extremely quickly and hitting, a tremendous amount of growth. For them, velocity is also everything, and they're happy customers as well.
Marketing to developers, can be challenging, Hugo.
Yeah.
It's not always so easy, right, to market to developers.
Yeah.
What works for you guys for customer acquisition at Namespace?
Yeah, it's it's such a fantastic question because if you go through the regular playbooks, I think and we see sometimes that in the industry, folks fail. Like the developers are somehow a special breed. It's hard to say exactly what that is, but there is some psychology to it. Often you don't want to talk with a salesperson. You don't want to hear the pitch. What you want is to try. And I think that comes from many developers actually extremely curious. They like to see how things work, and they just want to get things on their hands so that they can actually try them. So that's what we do. We try as quickly as possible to get value in front of you, very little friction. It was also a hard learned lesson. When we started the business, you had to go through hoops to try out Namespace, and we realized over time that that was just getting in the way. What we wanted to do, what we needed to do, was to have someone just come in and try out the product. And often, what happens is that you're engineering the team, you're suffering because your team is struggling with CI times, build and test times, ability to ship software, and within an hour, you immediately see the value that we bring in, which is often n times faster. So it can be 3 times, 4 times faster compared with what you're currently doing. And then later on, your procurement team also tends to love us because you end up saving a lot of money by moving over to Namespace. It was something that we learned later on, which in hindsight is self-evident, but faster also means cheaper. And a lot of these systems, a lot of these platforms are usage-based, and if we can get you to do things quicker, you end up paying less as well. So folks really see the efficiency, both in terms of performance, but also in spend. And I think we hit this rare combination of having both the developers, the engineers happy, because no engineer wants to wait. They just want to ship code, but also to get your procurement teams happy because you end up spending less money.
And I imagine the retention is really strong at Namespace because infrastructure, it's something, once they probably buy it, they see the value, they probably stick with you guys for a long time.
Yes, although you really need to think through the fact that your customers depend on you. When you're building infrastructure, and especially infrastructure for developers, you're the factory. If the factory is broken, you cannot work. And so there's very little space for errors. There's very little space for, hey, we had an outage, or something is not quite working. But it's very difficult to scale out, especially being kind of a growth company, to just keep seeing growth, going from a certain amount of users, a certain amount of customers, and then growing 10x. The technology ends up looking very different, and you're just racing behind the scenes to keep up with your customers and making sure that you're delivering an extremely reliable product. We've invested a lot in that, and because of it, we're very lucky that we've seen almost zero churn kind of lifetime at Namespace. And it is true, like after you go, and we see that ourselves as when we buy products, when we start using someone else's products, when you hit those massive improvements, things are 3 times faster, or you're now spending half the money. Any sort of smaller increment on it, someone else, like if you do a major change, you can get 10% faster. It's just so small in comparison that that our customers just tend to not even consider it. We're also very, very deliberate about always being the best product in the market. That's kind of part of our philosophy. Not just be kind of cost efficient, but actually have the highest quality. But a combination of both plus reliability is, I think, what has been driving our retention.
And you have this sophisticated product, infrastructure, infrastructure product, sophisticated solution. So I imagine you have a great team that you hired. And the question I'd like to ask you, What is your hiring philosophy, and what are some of your biggest hiring lessons, Hugo?
Yeah, team is everything. You cannot build something that is iconic and that kind of delivers outsized value. Not to sound like a cliche, but like outsized value. You really need to deeply invest in building a world-class team. My philosophy is I want to build extreme talent density. I remember when I joined Google, and I felt, I'm an okay engineer, but then you're surrounded by so many world-class engineers that you feel, first of all, you're humbled by it, which I think is really important, because it just makes you much more collaborative. You can sometimes be extremely good, but if you think very highly of yourself, it might be hard to work with you. So you're surrounded by extremely good people, and I think that humbles you. And then you're also learning all the time, and that's something that I brought, or I've been trying to bring to Namespace as well. Extreme talent density, an ability to tackle multiple problems. So we're very diligent about getting folks that can wear many hats. We a lot of our engineers are also doing kind of customer success. They work directly with our customers, and you need to be effective working with customers. You need to be empathic. You need to be able to understand. You need to be able to speak their language. So we also optimize for that. So my hiring philosophy is I hire the person, not for the role. It's actually something very interesting that sometimes when I'm working with other folks that try to help us with hiring in the past, or even within the team sometimes, we want to write down what is the role definition. And I often say, I think that's the least important thing. The most important thing is, what are we trying to accomplish that we can't accomplish yet? And do we want to work with this person? Will this person become better as an engineer or as a marketer or as a salesperson by being a namespace than they are today? And so those are the things that we look for.
And what parts of the business have you still not been able to delegate out, Hugo?
Yeah, I think I am guilty that I would say everything, in some sense that I think a lot of these kind of core problems float around in my head, and I think that's one of my shortcomings actually as a CEO is, so I have a belief model that if someone is really good, I want to be able to depend heavily on them, and I don't want to think about the problem anymore. But what ends up happening is that because everything ties back to the vision of what the company needs to be, how we project ourselves, everything is so intertwined. And like how you reply to a customer, for example, the tone that you bring along, that might define your relationship with that customer. That might define how that customer speaks about you to other potential customers. And so I find myself often in some details that I shouldn't be, honestly. But I think it's just so important for um, us to really elevate our game in terms of quality and just bring that quality throughout everything that we do.
That sounds like the founder mode mentality, Hugo.
In many ways, it is founder mode, but I try to be pragmatic as well. That success is not driven by any single person, and kind of leaning on the right strengths of everyone, I think is really important. And um, I really try to kind of elevate everyone and bring them to a spot where they can succeed. But I am very involved in just trying to make sure that we're like all of the wavelengths are aligned, and kind of all of the wavelengths kind of go in the same direction.
And what's the key to building great tech products, Hugo? This is specifically a product question, right? Like, how do we build great tech products, and what are kind of some of your product lessons?
Yeah, I can speak to what I think has worked for us and what I think is important. I also want to recognize, there's many different recipes and some people will like more some type of food versus others. So there's kind of different ways to tackle it. But I think having a deep understanding of the customer pain is extremely important. Like you want to almost anticipate what the customer needs before they tell you, because you've been there before. I think that brings you such a deep connection on the product, so that allows you to anticipate the customer's needs, allows you to, tie in different conversations. Like someone tells you, hey, I would love to have this particular part of the product that isn't out there yet, and you have someone else telling you, there's this thing that doesn't work really well, and independently they might seem completely different. But if you have a deep understanding of the space, sometimes it's actually the same thing, and you can tackle it once, and then because you can tackle it once versus n times, then you're much more efficient. So deep understanding. I think my opinion as well is that you need to have an appreciation for quality. I think everyone sees and recognizes quality, and quality comes in different ways. It could be how the UI feels. It could be how we present our pricing. It could be how our website looks. So having an appreciation for quality, I think it comes across through the product and everything that emanates from the product. And then attention to detail, which is kind of related. I think I mean, you yourself go through this in your life. Like if you buy a chair, for example, and the feet are somewhat misaligned, you see it. You think, okay, these guys didn't really pay attention to this. They didn't do a good job. The next chair I'll buy it from a different shop. And so that attention to detail, I think, is also extremely important when building products. One of the things that we do is that other folks don't do is that we actually have like a semantic model within our product that allows you to jump from concept to concept in a way that often drives delight with our customers. So I didn't even realize that those two things were tied together. And that just comes from deep understanding of the space, attention to detail, and favoring quality.
How do we do this with our team members, Hugo? Because the things you're mentioning, like the founders frequently have the attention to detail and the quality, right? The CEO, right, frequently has that attention to detail, quality, right? The extreme hard work, understanding the customer. But how do we pass that stuff to our team members? That's the challenge usually, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll do a little bit of a cop out first. I'll say, well, you need to hire the right people. Because not everyone will have an affinity to quality. Not everyone will have an affinity to great customer support. And that's okay. There's so many people in the world, and they can decide where they work, and you can decide which people should work for you. So I think that starts with the people themselves, like with the folks that you hire and that come and build the company with you. But then within, it's not obvious at all that if you just let it be, that it kind of converges towards quality, converges towards a great product. You do need to put a lot of intentionality into it. The way that I do it is I try to, and I think my team will speak to whether we do a great job at that or not. But I try to make sure that everything that we do, we understand the reason. There are no arbitrary moves. Everything is deliberate. Focusing on quality is not just a whim. It's not just because we like green versus purple. It's because we expect the customer to see that quality. We expect the customer to react to that quality in a positive way. It's part of our go-to-market strategy that people appreciate quality and they bring that to others. They want to talk about things that they use that they feel are of great quality. So just being very intentional. What I often tell the team is, when we're doing something, we often start with why are we doing it, and if the answer is not clear, then we should not be doing it. We try to lower as much as possible kind of accidental complexity, accidental decision making. Oh, we just ended up doing this and we cannot really explain why. Well, then we shouldn't have done it. Like, it needs to be obvious to everyone why we are doing things. And because that perpetuates, that means that that person that was in that conversation and understands why, they'll do their best job at bringing across the why to other people in the team as well, like new folks in the team. You're embedding that into your culture, but you need to be very intentional about it.
That's interesting, Hugo. You're specifically mentioning that the team members should know why we're doing kind of all of these initiatives and moves and why the details are special. Many times people don't do that. Many times people just say, execute this part, and that's it, right?
Yeah, and I think you can have velocity if you operate like that, but I don't think you have durability. I think you're not building something that can become great, because whatever is in your head that you feel is really important that people need to execute on, no one else is learning from that. No one else is imbuing those same values, those same framework in their heads. And I find that the difficult part is not the talking about the why, is giving us enough time, which we don't have, because every single day we're building product and growing, but giving us like enough a few minutes to talk about the why. And I think that's where the intentionality comes, that yes, we want to do this very quickly, we want to deliver this feature by tomorrow, but let's spend 5 minutes, let's spend 10 minutes talking about why this is important. And I'm very glad that our team kind of embeds those principles more and more. But then that goes back to, well, you need to hire people that that can do that. That they feel like, I'm in it, just not. I want everyone to be financially successful or extremely financially successful, but I also want them to be on a journey. I want them to be proud of the work that they're doing, and so understanding why, I think, often helps kind of perpetuate that into the culture.
Well, Hugo, I'm really grateful that you came on the show and shared the namespace journey and many of your interesting lessons. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our viewers before we log off?
Hey, first of all, thank you. I really appreciated our conversation. Many companies throughout the space, throughout the industry, are leaning on Namespace to just be able to go faster. I'm in San Francisco right now, and I've been humbled by so many conversations that I've had with many of our customers, where they just tell us that they love how much they can focus on their product and be happier as engineers because they build on our products. So I would love to continue to help other companies out there. We feel like we love to work with high growth companies, so please come and check out Namespace. And if you're looking for a place where you can excel as an engineer, as a marketer, we love to work with great people and people that want to be great people. Just drop me a note.
Cool. All right, Hugo. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much, Vlad. It was a pleasure to be here.